My name is Martha Ellison. I am 72 years old. And 2 days ago, on Christmas Eve, my own son put his hands on me. This morning, I am sitting alone in my living room, in the recliner that used to belong to my late husband, Robert. An ice pack rests against my wrist. The bruise there is still dark, still tender. Every small movement reminds me of what happened. My phone will not stop ringing. I already know who it is before I look. I have known since the first call came through. Daniel, my son. My lawyer told me not to answer. She said everything should go through her now. She said contact would only reopen wounds that were still bleeding. The restraining order paperwork lies on the coffee table in front of me, unsigned, waiting. But when the phone lights up again, my thumb moves before my mind catches up. I answer. Mom. His voice is not confident like it was 2 nights ago. It is thin, shaky. Mom, did you pay the mortgage this month? That is his first question. Not are you hurt, not are you okay, just that. I stare out the window at my frozen front yard. The grass is stiff with frost. A single bird pecks at the ground, then gives up. Why would you think I paid your mortgage, Daniel? I ask quietly. He exhales hard. The payment did not go through. The bank says we have insufficient funds. And I know you usually help us when things are tight. Usually? 2 nights ago, you told me I had more money than I needed. You said what I do with my money is none of your business. You said I was going to die alone in this house anyway. The silence stretches between us. Lauren stole $30,000 from me, I say calmly. And you helped her do it. When I confronted you, you shoved me to the floor and left me bleeding. If you want to understand why I said no today, you need to hear what happened in my kitchen. 3 months before that phone call, I was still the woman I had been for most of my life. Martha Ellison, retired public school librarian, widow of 5 years, mother to an only son who used to call every Sunday without fail. I lived alone in a modest ranch house on Cedar Ridge Lane, the same house my husband Robert and I bought when Daniel was still in grade school. My life was quiet, but it was full in its own way. On Wednesdays, I volunteered at the local library, shelving books and helping children find stories they were excited to read. On Fridays, I went to book club at my friend Nancy Collins's house. We met at 2 in the afternoon, always with homemade desserts and strong coffee. It gave my week structure, purpose. Saturdays belonged to Daniel and his wife, Lauren. I drove to their house in Meadow Creek, the one I helped them buy, and cooked dinner from scratch. Roasts, casseroles, desserts Lauren said tasted better when they were homemade. Lauren never called me Mom, it was always Martha. Polite, distant, like we worked in the same office instead of being family. I told myself it was fine. People show affection differently. I was probably being sensitive. Daniel used to ask how I was doing. When that stopped, I did not question it. His calls slowly became requests instead of conversations. Can you watch the house? Can you help with a bill? Can you cover us just this once? I said yes every time. Because that is what good mothers do, or at least that is what I believed back then. The day everything changed started like any other Friday. I woke up early, showered, and got dressed for book club. I baked lemon bars that morning, the kind Robert used to love, and placed them carefully in a covered tray on the passenger seat of my car. By 1:30, I was ready to leave. Then my phone rang. Nancy's voice was apologetic. Her daughter had gone into labor early. Book club was canceled. She promised we would meet the following week. I sat in my driveway for a moment with the engine running. I was already dressed. The lemon bars were already made. Going back inside felt pointless. I decided to run a few errands instead. I drove toward Willow Park, letting muscle memory guide me. I needed cash for the farmer's market the next morning, so I pulled into the parking lot of the bank Robert and I had used for decades. As I slowed near the ATM, something caught my eye. A flash of red. Lauren stood at the machine with her back to me, wearing the bright red coat I had given her last Christmas. I would have recognized it anywhere. It was expensive. She had worn it often and always received compliments. 3 parking spaces away sat Daniel's sub. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Why would Lauren be at this bank? They used a different one across town. Daniel had been very clear about that. I watched as she finished her transaction. The machine dispensed a thick stack of bills. She counted them quickly, glanced over her shoulder, and slipped the cash into her purse. something in my chest dropped. I ducked instinctively, feeling foolish even as I did it. Lauren walked to the SUV, got in and drove away without looking back. I sat there for several minutes after she left. My heart was racing. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe Daniel had asked her to withdraw money. Maybe I was mistaken about which bank they used. Maybe I was imagining things. But the feeling would not leave. It was the same feeling you get when you open the refrigerator and smell something sour before you can see it. A quiet warning that something has gone bad. Finally, I parked and went inside. The lobby was familiar. Comfortable. I asked to speak to a banker and requested my recent statements. My voice sounded calm, even to my own ears. As the numbers appeared on the screen, the sense of unease turned into something heavier. Something undeniable. And I knew, standing there under fluorescent lights, that my life was about to change. The banker turned the screen slightly so I could see it better. At first, nothing stood out, just numbers and dates. Then she scrolled. And scrolled again. $3,000. I leaned closer. The next line showed the same amount, and the one after that. Always 3,000, always the same weekday. Always within the same short window of time in the afternoon. Friday. My book club day. I asked her to pull up the last 8 months. The pattern did not change. Week after week, while I was sitting in Nancy's living room talking about novels and sipping coffee, someone had been emptying my account. Not randomly, not carelessly, methodically. $3,000 at a time. The banker's voice softened. She explained that emergency debit cards are often misused. Once someone has the card and the PIN, the system does not question intent. It assumes permission. I felt cold all over. I asked if there was security footage. She hesitated, then nodded. She told me it would take a few minutes. I sat in the chair across from her desk, hands folded in my lap, staring at the wall. When the footage appeared, there was no confusion left to hide behind. Lauren's face was clear, clearer than I wanted it to be. There she was at the ATM, sliding in the card, punching in the numbers, taking the cash. Sometimes she looked nervous, sometimes bored. Once she was smiling at her phone while my money came out of the machine. This was not a mistake. This was not one bad decision. This was a routine. I thanked the banker, gathered the printed statements, and walked out to my car. I did not cry. I knew exactly who I needed to call next. And exactly what I needed to ask. I sat in my car for several minutes before dialing Daniel's number. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I had expected anger or panic, maybe tears. Instead, there was a strange calm, the kind that comes when a truth finally settles into place. Daniel answered on the fourth ring. "Hi, Mom," he said. "I'm kind of busy." I did not waste time. "The emergency debit card I gave you," I said. "The one linked to my checking account. Where is it?" A pause. A short one, but long enough to matter. "It's in my wallet," he said. "Why?" "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure. What's going on?" "Read me the number on the front of the card." He sighed, annoyed, but he did it. I compared it to the number on the statement resting on my lap. It was the same card. "When was the last time you used it, Daniel?" "I don't know. Years ago, when my car broke down, you told me it was for emergencies only." I closed my eyes. "Have you ever given that card to Lauren?" The silence stretched. I could hear movement on his end, a drawer opening, then nothing. "She needed it once," he said quietly. "Around Christmas last year, our credit cards were maxed out. I told her to take out a little and pay it back." "How much is a little, Daniel?" Another pause. 3,000. The air left my lungs. "Just once," he added quickly. "It was supposed to be temporary." I did not argue. I did not raise my voice. I did not ask him to explain further. Because I already knew. "You gave her permission," I said, and she took it as an invitation. He started to say my name, but I ended the call. That night, I spread the statements across my kitchen table and looked at them one last time. Then I made a decision. I would not confront them over the phone. I would look them in the eye. Christmas Eve arrived cold and clear. I woke before sunrise and moved through my kitchen on autopilot, turkey in the oven, potatoes boiling, duff rolled and cut into neat shapes. My hands were steady. My mind was quiet in a way it had not been for weeks. The bank statements were folded once and tucked into the pocket of my apron. By late afternoon, the house smelled like rosemary and butter. The table was set for 3. I did not feel festive. I felt prepared. They arrived early. Daniel walked in first, bringing cold air and the familiar scent of his cologne. He kissed my cheek without really looking at me. Lauren followed, heels clicking against my floor, carrying a store-bought dessert in a plastic container. "Merry Christmas, Martha," she said brightly. She went straight to the kitchen, opened my refrigerator without asking, and poured herself a glass of wine. She did not offer me any. "You know," she said casually, leaning against the counter, "I saw the prettiest coat at the mall yesterday. Camel color, cashmere, on sale but still pricey, maybe for my birthday." I turned from the stove and looked at her. "Actually," I said, my voice calm but firm, "we need to talk before dinner." Daniel loosened his tie. "Can this wait? We had a long day." "No," I said, "it cannot." I reached into my apron pocket and removed the folded papers. I smoothed them out carefully and placed them on the kitchen counter between us. The room went quiet except for the radio playing softly in the background. "These are my bank statements," I said. "From my checking account. The one I opened after Robert died. The one only Daniel had access to, for emergencies." I looked at my son, really looked at him, searching for something familiar. Then I turned to Lauren. "Did you take money from my account?" The words hung in the air, heavy and unavoidable. Lauren's smile froze. Daniel did not speak. And in that silence I knew the night was about to unravel. Lauren laughed. It was short and sharp like a crack of ice. She looked at Daniel, then back at me, as if I had just told a joke that missed its mark. "You cannot be serious," she said. "Are you hearing this, Daniel?" I kept my eyes on her. "I am asking a direct question. Did you take money from my account?" She shook her head slowly. "This is unbelievable. You must be confused. You have been forgetting things lately, Martha. It happens at your age." Daniel finally spoke. "Mom, you are probably mistaken. You authorized these withdrawals and forgot. You have been under a lot of stress." I felt something tighten in my chest, not fear, not sadness, anger, clean and sharp. "I am 72, not incapable," I said. "I keep records of everything. Every dollar. Every statement." Lauren stepped closer to Daniel and placed a hand on his arm. "Memory issues are common. My grandmother went through the same thing. She was convinced people were stealing from her too." That was when I set the statements fully on the counter. "I saw the security footage," I said. "The ATM near Willow Park. That is your car. That is you wearing the red coat I bought you last Christmas, taking my money." The room went still. Lauren's expression changed. The polite mask dropped away, revealing something hard underneath. "You had no right to spy on me," she snapped. "I had every right to protect myself," I replied. She crossed her arms. "You owe us that money anyway, after everything we have done for you. Visiting, listening to your stories, pretending to care." Daniel looked at me then, his face cold. "You have more money than you need. You are fine. What are you even saving it for?" I swallowed. "You are not confused, Martha," Lauren said quietly. "You are inconvenient." That was it. "Get out of my house," I said. "Both of you." Lauren grabbed her purse immediately. But Daniel did not move. And that was when everything went wrong. For a moment, no one moved. The radio kept playing softly, a cheerful holiday song that suddenly felt out of place. My heart was pounding, but my voice stayed steady. I said, "Get out." Lauren rolled her eyes and reached for her purse. "Fine. I am done playing family anyway." She turned toward the door like this was nothing more than an inconvenience. Daniel was still standing in the middle of my kitchen. I picked up the wine glass Lauren had poured for herself, the one she never offered me, and threw it. Not at them. Never at them. It shattered against the cabinet beside Daniel, spraying glass and white wine across the counter. Everything happened at once. Daniel lunged forward, his hands slammed into my shoulders. The force surprised me. My hip struck the edge of the counter, pain exploding through my side. I stumbled backward, my foot catching on the rug. Then the floor rushed up. My head hit the hardwood hard enough to knock the breath out of me. A sharp ringing filled my ears. For a moment I could not tell where I was or what had happened. I tasted blood. Through the noise, I heard Lauren's voice. "What did you do, Daniel?" I lay there staring at the ceiling, at the faint water stain Robert had promised to fix years ago. Warm blood slid down my temple. My body screamed with pain. Daniel's face appeared above me, twisted with anger and something else I did not recognize. "This is your fault," he said. "You pushed us to this." Then they were gone. The front door slammed. The engine of Daniel's car roared to life and disappeared down the street. I was alone on my kitchen floor. The smell of burned food filled the air. The smoke alarm began to beep. I dragged myself toward the wall phone and dialed with shaking fingers. 911, I said when the operator answered. "I have been assaulted." And with that sentence, everything in my life changed. The paramedics arrived within minutes. They moved quickly but gently, asking questions while they worked. "Did you lose consciousness? Can you tell me what happened?" I answered as best I could, my voice unsteady but clear. They took photos of my injuries, the swelling on my wrist, the bruise spreading across my hip, the cut on my temple where blood still clung to my hairline. The police came next. One officer spoke softly while the other wrote everything down. They gave me a case number and asked if I felt safe staying in my home. "This is my house," I said. "I am not leaving it." After they left, the silence felt different, heavier, but also honest. I sat back in Robert's recliner and stared at the wall until my hands stopped shaking. Then I reached for my phone again, not to call Daniel, not to apologize, not to fix anything. I called my lawyer, Hannah Pierce. I told her everything. The withdrawals, the footage, the confrontation, the shove. She did not interrupt me once. When I finished, she said, "Martha, this is theft. And this is assault. And because of your age, it is considered elder exploitation." That word should have scared me. Instead, it steadied me. Next, I called my financial advisor and froze every account, changed every PIN, removed every authorized user. By the time I set my phone down, something inside me had shifted. For the first time in years, I was not rescuing anyone. I was protecting myself. The call came the morning after Christmas. I was back in Robert's recliner, a fresh ice pack pressed to my wrist, the house quiet except for the ticking clock on the wall. When my phone lit up with Daniel's name, I did not feel fear or dread. I felt ready. "Mom," he said the moment I answered. His voice was strained, rushed. "Did you pay the mortgage this month?" I closed my eyes. "Why would you think I paid your mortgage, Daniel?" "Because the payment did not go through. The bank says our account has insufficient funds, and you usually help us when things get tight." "Usually?" "2 nights ago, you told me I had more money than I needed," I said calmly. "You said what I do with my money is none of your business. You said I would die alone in this house anyway." Silence. Then his voice dropped. "Mom, please, we are going to lose the house, just this once. We can fix everything later." "No," I said. He started talking over me, desperation spilling out. "We will pay you back, I promise. Lauren did not mean for it to go this far." "Lauren stole $30,000 from me," I said. "You knew. You gave her the card. And when I confronted you, you shoved me to the floor and left me bleeding." I did not raise my voice. "Here is what will happen next," I continued. "You and Lauren will repay every dollar you took with interest. My lawyer is preparing a payment plan. You will sign it, or I will proceed with the charges already filed." "We do not have that kind of money," he whispered. "Then you will find it," I said. "Sell what you have, downsize, I do not care." I ended the call. Then I opened my journal and wrote 4 words I should have written years ago. "I choose myself now." The deadline Hannah gave them came and went without a single payment. No apology either, just silence broken only by messages Daniel sent that I did not answer. Promises, excuses, blame wrapped in desperation. I blocked the number and let the quiet return. Hannah filed the charges the next morning. Theft, assault, elder exploitation. The process moved slowly, but it moved forward. An investigator called to confirm details. A detective asked follow-up questions. Each conversation was calm, procedural, almost boring. and that was exactly what made it real. Within weeks, the consequences began to surface. Daniel and Lauren missed more payments. The house in Meadow Creek went into foreclosure. The expensive sub disappeared. I heard through Nancy that they were selling furniture online, anything they could part with. One afternoon, Daniel showed up at my front door. I saw him through the window, thinner than I remembered, standing with his hands in his pockets like a child waiting to be let back inside. He rang the bell. Then again. "Mom, I know you are home. Please, just let me explain." I did not open the door. I called the police and reported the restraining order violation. When the cruiser arrived, Daniel left without looking back. I stood in my hallway, heart steady, and realized something important. Consequences were finally doing the work I never could. The trial was scheduled for early September. I had never been inside a courtroom as anything other than a juror. Sitting there as the reason everyone had gathered felt unreal. Daniel sat at the defense table, thinner, older, eyes fixed on the floor. Lauren sat beside him, her posture stiff, her face unreadable. When it was my turn to testify, I walked to the stand on my own. I told the story slowly, the withdrawals, the footage, the confrontation, the shove. I did not exaggerate, I did not cry, I let the facts speak for themselves. Daniel's lawyer tried to paint me as confused, as emotional, as a lonely old woman lashing out because her son was pulling away, but the evidence did not bend. The bank records, the security video, the hospital photos, they told the truth without raising their voices. The jury deliberated for several hours. Guilty on all counts. Daniel cried when the verdict was read. Lauren did not. She stood up and walked out before the judge finished speaking. Daniel was sentenced to 18 months in prison and ordered to repay every dollar, plus interest and legal fees. I did not feel joy. I felt release. Recovery took time. I had hip surgery that spring and hired a nurse named Julia to help me through the first weeks. Physical therapy was slow and painful, but I showed up every session. By summer, I was walking without a cane. I returned to my garden, planted tomatoes and herbs, let the dirt work its way back under my fingernails. I signed up for a watercolor class at the community center. I made friends who knew me as Martha, not as someone's mother. Daniel was released early for good behavior. He lives across town now. We do not speak, and I am at peace with that. Here is what this taught me. Love without respect is not love. Generosity without boundaries is self-betrayal. And consequences are not cruelty. They are clarity. If this story resonated with you, I want to hear from you. What boundary would you set if you were in my place? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found value here, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. I am Martha Ellison, and for the first time in my life, I am free.